Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone, and today we're going to tell you everything you need to know about Namora, the new card coming to Marvel Snap, well, later today. We also are going to talk about Skaar and Black Knight, the other cards in the Spotlight caches, and we're going to give you a deck for anyone who's not planning on opening Spotlights this week so that you still have something to look forward to. But first, I'm going to tell you about the Stream Team. If you want to check the decks out from this video, see how good Namora is, and learn about these things, you can check out our friends who will be streaming games with these decks. We are featuring Power on Gaming member Prashaun today at 12 p.m. Eastern. Prashaun will have a video up with at least some of these decks going out tomorrow morning. If you're interested in yesterday's decks, Power on member Gregor2424 has a video going live at 11 a.m. Eastern today. All right. Our deck for today is JD Max Phoenix Force deck. This is not JD Max. This is actually a member of Lamby's Discord who updated the Phoenix Force deck to this, and it's really cool and really powerful. This is obviously based on Jet's old list. You can tell because it has the Deadpool and Hulkbuster thing going on in it, and it says, I can use Blink to make my Phoenix Force more consistent. The Phoenix Force is the primary game plan for this still, and doing that more often is pretty freaking good. Cool. All right. You can find JD at twitter.com/JDMcDonaldino. He would Twitch stream, supposedly, theoretically, but it happens so rarely. Check him out on Twitter and you'll get those announcements there. Oh, Blink can be Iron Lad or Deathlock in this list. It's obviously less consistent. That's why Blink is here. But hey, whatever. Cannonball is here in the old Goliath spot as the way to sort of win that one lane against that one thing that's too big for you. So you can feel free to replace that with Goliath just fine. Nico and Phoenix are needed. Nico is like the secret sauce to this list. Iron Fist can replace Ghost Spider. You lose a fair amount. And we're going to do the simple version of the turn by turn here. But one card that's not here that I really like in this list that helps me win a lot of cubes when I play it is Taskmaster. So you can consider, I guess, Cannonball for Taskmaster if you really want to as well. Cool. All right, the simple win rate for this, the simple play pattern for this is turn one, you either play Deadpool or you pass. Destroying Deadpool will not, not trigger your Phoenix Force. So if you Phoenix Force, you're not going to get back a Deadpool, so don't stress that. Turn two is multiple mana torch. Multiple mana torch. There is no torch in this version, excuse me. I got so used. Oh, there is a torch. Ooh, torch is back. Multiple mana torch. Turn three, you eat it. Turn four, drop Phoenix. Start moving it around. If you didn't see Phoenix, use Blink to try and get it. And turn six, Cannonball. Now, if you need to further move around that Phoenix Force, that's what Ghost Spider is here for. Now, that is not the only way to play this deck. This deck has about 10 million different play patterns that are all super effective. In the description to this video, I'm going to pin Jet is the best Phoenix player in the world. Jet has a whole, freaking giant document that explains everything you need in order to play this deck like a pro, and that document will be in the description to this video. This deck is very strong and very unexpected and really solid into the meta. The Doctor Strange and Ghost Spider let you to get that Blink into Phoenix Force late and start to get some good things going. All right, our Spotlight card for the day is Namora. She is a 5/6, not a 5/5, excuse me. She is Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, give +5 power to each of your cards alone at another location. She does not have to be played mid. As long as you have a card alone at each of those locations, she is a 5/16. That's a ton of power. That's more than Doom and more than Ms. Marvel, although she costs more than Ms. Marvel and has a more restrictive cost. The Spotlight variants, for those of you who decide what to buy based on the variants, we have a Namora Under the Sea. You saw this one in the thumbnail. See the difference? I actually like the base art just as much, so I feel no great need for this, but there is no other Namora variant in the game right now. We have this relatively cool Skaar in the dark with an axe, and we have this pretty cool Black Knight with a bunch of thorny vines coming around it. Again, we will review these cards later, but if the variants are why you buy, these are the variants you're looking at. I have limited interest in both this Black Knight and this Skaar, so I might just grab Namora with tokens, because I have a bajillion tokens, I'm a content creator. Because I have a hip for this Black Knight and a different Spotlight variant, and while I do like this Skaar, there's also a hip coming for that, and I prefer Dan hip variants. So 5/16 is a lot, as far as synergies go. If you play a 5/16, you're going to win a lot of games of Marvel Snap if you can make that consistent. Jeff, Nightcrawler, Vision, Nocturne, and Move cards all synergize because you can put them either out of the way to get that buff, or put them somewhere and then move them elsewhere to gain extra power. Ms. Marvel and Doom have some ability to work here, where if you have one card in each location, Ms. Marvel in the middle, right? And then you can play another card in each spot to end the game to get that extra +5 Ms. Marvel trigger, which isn't terrible. I like Doom better as a combination here. We'll talk about why as we go forward. Wong, Absorbman, and Odin can all re-trigger this. If you go Wong Namora into Odin, you're going to get just a bajillion power, because you're going to get +10 from Namora the first time, +10 from Namora the second time, and then Odin's going to trigger again and get +10 from Namora a third time. That's 30 power. That's enough to win most games. You'll see multiple decks in this video that do that, usually using cards like Armor, Cosmo, and Colossus, because they can't be interacted with. They're not going to be Shang-Chi. They're not going to be Shadow King. Storm and Professor X work reasonably similarly here as well. Claw can work because making that 34 power claw and then giving 8 to that 6, that's 14 in the middle. Not terrible here. And Namor and Orca work fine with magic, I guess. I don't think that's where we really want to be, but hey, it's Namora that works with Namor and Orca, so fine. This is very weak to junk, in particular the card Debris, but anything like Goblins can be really frustrating without priority, although you should be able to get priority. Your Annihilus package is going to frustrate this. I think for the week, there's going to be a lot of Debris floating around. Tomorrow, I've got a really cool, really effective Debris Zoo deck that's been sort of cleaning up in Top 1000 Infinite for you to counter it if you're worried about it. And Leech is obviously going to be a problem in this meta. If it gets leeched, it doesn't have its ability, and it's dead. I expect a ton. Not that we're not seeing a lot of Leech, I expect a ton of Leech, which is actually really frustrating because I think this card might form new archetypes, but it's going to be a little while before we know. There is an OTA this Thursday. I don't expect Leech to get touched, but no one knows yet. Please hit that sub, like, and comment button. We are at just about 11,000 subs. We're trying to get that number even higher by bringing you a new Marvel Snap video with at least 3 decks every single day. If you're already subbed, like, comment, watch as long as you can. It really does help the channel, and we appreciate you. All right, so our first deck is Docty, now that Drewberry has seemingly stopped making them. He's the king of Marvel Snap unreleased card content. He has the best predictions of card power of anyone I know. He's just an excellent player and excellent deck builder. This deck is not built around Namora. It can use Namora. It's built around doing the Blink Leech nonsense, or the Electro Blink nonsense. Namora is here just as an extra way to get some power. If you go Nebula in one lane, Jeff in one lane, Electro in another lane, blink on that Electro and get Namora, you just got yourself a 6 power Nebula and an 8 power Jeff. Seems like that's pretty good. And then you can just continue on. You still have that 7 power blink, and then you continue on with your 6 energy nonsense to win the game. That's basically all this list does with Namora, but it's probably going to end up being one of the most effective ways to play the card. I would strongly consider Sandman for this list. I think Sandman's in a really good place right now, but overall, this is a very strong list that can win a lot of games this now. Next up, we have Unk. Unk is another creator that does new card content. You can check out Unk's YouTube video over on, obviously, his channel. Just type in Unk Marvel Snap, spelled as you can see above. And this is water. This is basically all the water-based cards. So we've got Atuma, Namora, Orca, and Namor. Basically saying, if I can get one of these alone, I'm going to win. Storm also, I guess, is sort of water-based, as is Wave. So if you go Wave into Orca, into Namora, you should be good. You can go Storm into Namor, Storm in one lane, Namor in another lane, into Namora, and you're pretty good. All of these different things just put a ton of power on the board, and that ton of power is pretty good. Ebony Maw can also get pretty big, pretty fast with Namora. Is this going to reach to Shang-Chi? Yeah, but we've never seen less Shang-Chi. Also, you're probably wondering what the heck the Venom is for here. The Venom is, well, Atuma's frustrating, right? You drop Atuma and you're like, oh, they're going to junk this up and ruin me. And then you just Venom it off and you're fine. You got the 13 power. You're perfectly acceptable. You're perfectly happy. And that's or you can end up playing multiple cards in one lane, including junk. Venom cleans that up to 1, which lets Namora get its trigger. Next up, we have Canadian Alfredo, excellent Marvel Snap Zone writer who does a lot of great content with surprise Namora. This is basically mostly a sort of good stuff go-around deck. You stick Namora here behind your Invisible Woman. You stick Namora ideally with Absorbman behind your Invisible Woman. Captain Marvel goes somewhere. Ms. Marvel goes somewhere. Green Goblin is big without bothering to trigger. Mr. Fantastic gives you that extra power in those side lanes, and you should be able to win that way. Just the extra power you're doing here is absolutely stellar. Invisible Woman is really cool here. I like this list a lot. Next up, we have Safety. Safety calls this Shift and Buff. This one's running the Colossus because Colossus can't have his power lowered and can't be destroyed, so that's pretty damn good for Namora. This is basically saying you can't mess with me, right? It's got the Ravonna. It can do the White Tiger Doom shenanigans with Ms. Marvel, or it can just say, I've only got a couple cards, I Namora, then I start moving my Nocturne around, I start moving my Doom around, and I get better. It's a pretty cool list from the Genius Deck Builder. Safety Blade, I would not be surprised if this ends up a meta version of the list. Obelisk, our friend, who is a newer Twitch streamer, has this heavy ramp deck that wants to go, it can go Storm, Leech, Blink, right? Storm, Namor, Namora, Storm, Wave, Orca, Namora. You have a ton of different plays, and because so many of these different cards are ongoings here, we've got a Spectrum in the list. This is actually pretty damn cool. I like this list a lot. Also, sick variant choices by Obelisk here. Again, you see that this is a new archetype, right? This is doing something that other decks aren't. I decided to try the all-in approach. This is my all-in Namora deck. Fundamentally, what you're trying to do is you're trying to go armor or Colossus in one lane, Cosmo one lane, Wong, Namora, Odin, and then just do the 30 power, can't mess with me, I win button. That's perfectly fine. Even if you do that with 20 power with Absorbing Man, that's perfectly fine. We'd even drop a Jeff at that point. You can drop a Jeff and get the extra points on Jeff. You can throw them a Goblin if you don't have the exact combo. Killmonger handles debris bullshit. Nocturne is another mover that can change locations and let you get into places that you wouldn't otherwise. And then if you do the Namora thing and like you don't get everything off perfectly, then you just drop the Doom on Wong and get the double Doom. Obviously, this deck is weak to Leech, but outside of that Leech problem, it's really, really strong. This is my original Namora list. I built this ages ago when the card was first spoiled. Yeah, May 7th, I guess only like 2 weeks ago. I swear I built it sooner. Maybe I updated it 2 weeks ago. Whatevs. So this one is trying to do, again, the Armor Colossus Cosmo thing, but in this case we're running Skaar as the top end, because if you get that double Namora off or you drop Crossbones Ronin, you'll have a really cheap Skaar, and a cheap 6/11 tends to win games. My entire logic here. It gives you something to do if they do leech you, because you can just go like Cosmo into Crossbones, into Ronin, into Skaar, 2-cost Skaar, and then 4-cost whatever, Captain Marvel, win that way. So that's the theory behind this one. It's basically saying, okay, so you want to leech me, I can still beat you. All right, so does Namora look good? I think it's going to be better than expected. I think this is potentially a meta card, but it's super counterable whenever it becomes really meta. She looks right now to me more fun than good, and this first week is going to be the worst week for her. So if she's even decent this week, I think there will be times when she's great in the meta. She's a pass. For my recommendation is that you pass for now, but we always check back Thursday, Friday, Monday, technically now. Thursday, we ask 5 to 10 top players what they think of Nora, what their first impressions are. Friday, I give you my weekend mission recommendations, and then Monday, I do a final review of the card. So we will still have all three of those. So if this card is great, you will have every opportunity to know about it. But for the time being, I think it is definitely worth waiting. Questions of the day before we get to Skaar and Black Knight. Here for the snaps, ask how many times you need to play a deck to have a feel for it, and generally speaking, about 10. I've played a lot of Marvel Snap. Obviously, I think about this game fairly constantly, so I don't need a lot to have a good feel for it. Do I know exactly how good it is after 10 games? No. I think around like 20 games, I have a really good feel of if this is like a real deck or not. But after 10 games, I have a feel I know how to play it. I'm good at it. You almost always, and I know whether I want to feature it and what I want to say about it. Philip Ratko wants to know the stream team's channels on Twitch. They are all now linked in the description to this video, so please feel free to check that out. Sasha asks how I deal with turn 1 or 2 snaps on ladder. Okay. So when I see a turn 1 or 2 snap, what I'm trying to figure out is why. First thing I do is I look at locations. Is there a location that caused this snap? If so, what does that tell me about their deck? So I was watching Safety stream right before I came on, and he saw Nidavellir. And when he saw Nidavellir, the opponent snapped, and I went, "Oh, they have Iron Man." Guess what they had? Iron Man. Do I have an answer to either Nidavellir or Iron Man? Can I disrupt an Iron Man deck? If so, I'm staying in. If not, I'm leaving. Now, sometimes there's a turn 1 snap with almost no information. Now, I look at my hand. Do I have my combo? Do I think my combo is strong enough that I can compete? I'm perfectly fine retreating for 2, but I'm not going to stick around for 4 necessarily. I'm not going to snap back. I'm going to wait and decide. My snapback will come later when I draw whatever that answer is. So in that Nidavellir game, for example, if I had a White Widow and a Nocturne in my deck, I might snap into that location, right? Because I know I can give the -4 and change that location and ultimately ruin a lot of their plans. White Cloud wants to know my Sage versus Sasquatch thoughts for bounce. Okay. So I think Sage is directly a better bounce card by like a lot. I think Sage is one of the best bounce cards in the game. It's basically usually better Hitmonkey in that list, and I don't know if you've played a lot of bounce, but bounce really likes Hitmonkey, and better Hitmonkey is a huge deal for it. Sasquatch I don't think is actually a bounce card. I think Sasquatch is a sort of like Mysterio on 2, Mockingbird on 3 card, where you'll go like Mysterio into Sasquatch into having a super cheap Mockingbird type thing. Or you can go Mysterio into, I don't know, whatever, into like Moon Girl, and then you just sort of like go off. So I expect that to be the Sasquatch list. If that sounds good to you, then Sasquatch is going to be great. And if that doesn't, then Sage is better. Sage has moved up and up in my esteem. Again, I think Sage is going to have her day in the meta. The instant leech isn't the whole meta. If you'd like your questions read in tomorrow's video, please leave some in the comments. All right, Skaar is a former Season Pass card, the January Season Pass, in fact, so it's back 5 months later. 6/11, costs 2 less for each of your cards that has 10 or more power. Skaar gets relatively cheap. Skaar can be good. I hit Infinite with Skaar this season. Our friend Gunny T has a big dumb idiot deck that runs Skaar, and occasional Thanos decks run Skaar. Skaar is very good, but usually not honestly really a requirement. Let's take a look at some decks. If these are decks you want to play, you should consider opening for Skaar, and if they're not, meh. All right, so the first we have Divyena. This is actually Ika's deck. Ika named this, actually, I don't know what the hell Ika named this, but this is an Ika list, the great Ika who builds so many of our decks. That, the Leech Jubilee Blink deck that's running Claw, that's Ika's list. The one that's got, not the one that's got Domino, the one that's got like White Widow and Jeff in it, that's Ika's list. Ika builds an absolute ton of lists. This version won the Snap Judgments League Season 1. It's a little worse now that you have to get rocks out for Darkhawk to be 10. That's what the -1 power there does. It makes this list slightly worse. But it's still a really powerful list, and Skaar likes the list, right? Yeah, you don't run Gladiator, which actually hurts the list. I don't know, it's up and down, but it's very powerful and has a lot of meta answers. Cool. Next up, we have the Baron Zemo Idiots. This is another version of Big Dumb Idiots that I built, and as I was looking for decks for Skaar, I realized that this version had a stupidly high win rate. I don't believe any, I believe this is just my list. Honest to God, I don't think anyone else made this. But I could be wrong, so if I am, someone let me know. This is just a good stuff list. It is literally just really good stats, and then on turn 4, because you have really good stats early, you can play Crossbones or Cull, you have 3 ones, and then you can go Ronin, cheap Skaar, and whatever the hell else you want. If you can get that Zemo off with Skaar at the end of the game, especially if you can go Yondu, Zemo, Skaar at the end of the game, you're just going to get a big card. This list is really good, and I need to remember after I record this to put this in my game, because I want to play it. This is a very good Skaar list. This is what Thanos Skaar looks like right now. This is a version of the FAK Crazy list that's been floating around for the past several seasons. This is actually basically the January Thanos list that everyone was playing when Thanos was super meta. Thanos is worse. Thanos isn't as much worse as everyone makes it sound like. This deck is still worth playing. Skaar is still stellar in this list. You play Cull on 4, right? And then you can go Skaar on 5. And that's basically all you need. You go Skaar on 5, then you go Magneto or Red Hulk or Blob, and you win. It's a nice way to win. Kyra can protect all these cards perfectly fine, except Cull. And then, you should just be strong enough to be completely fine. If you don't have priority and you know they're going to Shang your Cull, you can drop your Red Hulk or Magneto there. If you have Kyra out, and then it'll kill the Cull, but you'll still win because they're not putting a ton of power there because, you know, they expect to win based on the Shang. So, really good list, really strong list. Next up, this is the deck I hit Infinite with this season. It is Big Dumb Balls. This is not nearly as good in the Leech meta because Cannonball is way worse and Blob is way worse. So, not ideal. Again, I would play the Zemo version, which does not have the ongoing weakness. I mean, you'll hit Zemo, but like, kind of whatever. Like, Zemo's a nice tempo card, but basically everything else is not ongoing. But this deck was, for a little bit, really, really dominant and really, really effective until, unfortunately, Leech sort of knocked it down a whole peg. Just a whole peg. Cool. Really good list, though, if you're willing to try it. I hit Infinite with it with like an 80% win rate. All right, our next Spotlight card. Oh, so again, if any of those lists look good to you, look like things you would enjoy or want to play, then Skaar is something to consider buying. I don't generally recommend you buy Skaar, but if you want to play these lists, then you need the card. All right, Black Knight was literally yesterday, not at all a recommend, and I think my advice has changed. He's a 1/2, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, left, discard a card, add Ebony Blade to your hand with that card's power. So if you discard a 20, you get a 4/20. The fun part of Ebony Blade is Ebony Blade cannot, as an ongoing, they cannot have its power reduced and cannot be destroyed. So you can play it in all sorts of weird locations to win, whether it be the -3 location or Death's Domain or whatever else. Immune to Shang-Chi, immune to Shadow King. All right, so this deck is why I might be recommending, recommending Black Knight right now. So this is a real meta list. I don't know how else to put that. This list is completely fantastic. If you are on the Marvel Snap Facebook group, there's a group called the Revengers that have a group chat. That's their competitive group. Really great people. Hello, particularly Nicholas, who played the crap out of this list, and they're dominating with this. Pretty chill. Another of our patrons, whose name you'll hear in a little bit, has been dominating with this list. This is just a really, really strong list, and it only works with Black Knight. If you would like to know how to play this list, check yesterday's video where there's a full guide, but this is a wildly good list. Do you need Sage for it? Kinda. You can do without Sage, but like Sage really makes it sing. All right, Nerf Herder has a Black Knight deck. This is a Black Knight deck that looks like a hella list, but is not. It is instead just a I do big things. So fundamentally what you do is you either get the giant, you get like the shard, the 20 power shard, right? And then you can pass on 5 and play both She-Hulk and the shard. You can Ghost Rider back your Infinite or whatever, then blink that away to get something else freaking huge, get that power going, and then if you have Black Knight, you still have a giant shard to play or Magneto to play. Do that in an armor lane to protect your stuff, so on and so forth. You can even go Hope into, who cares, right? Let's say Sunspot into Pass, into Infinite and She-Hulk. Tons of power in this one, really worth playing. Not nearly as weak to the Leech meta as you would expect. And again, 71% win rate in Infinite with a ton of games. Next up, Hella Corvus. You can always play Black Knight and Corvus. I don't think it's especially right, although some people do, right? I think Googly actually had one a few weeks ago when the season first began, where Black Knight was in Hella. Hella's dangerous right now. If you see Leech, you have to run, right? You get Leech, you probably run. However, Sandman can still sometimes win you the game. So if you can get something big out of your Jubilee, or you played Corvus, right? And you have the extra energy, and then you go like Sandman, Magneto, Giganto, right? Like you still might be able to win that game. Or you can go Sandman, Blink, and then you see what I mean? You just get a ton of big shit out, and you can win that way perfectly effectively. You have the big shard a lot of the time in this list, just a 12 power shard to play. Gives you some counterplay to the Leech meta. So the opponent will snap, being like, aha, I stopped the Hella, and then you just have other things to do that are powerful enough to win. All right, Crossbones Red Hulk. This is a War Machine deck that fundamentally uses Black Knight as a way to, if you discard Infinite, great. If you don't discard Infinite, you can just play it with War Machine. It's fundamentally the entire gist of this deck. I think this is the worst deck of the ones we've seen so far. I think this is fundamentally a worse version of this. A worse version of the Nerf Herder list, but it is still like not bad by any means, and it's a lot of power. Whenever I look at a list like this, I'm like, why no Skaar? But this is good. If you go Zabu into Crossbones into Cull, you're pretty freaking happy, right? You go Black Knight, Zabu, Crossbones, Cull, and then you just have a shit ton of power on the board, and you make your opponent answer you. They only have one Shang, and you have too many Shang. You can even spend your turn 5 War Machine and then drop a freaking 20. Cool. Lots and lots and lots of ways to win with this. Tons of power. That's what Black Knight does. That's what he likes. He likes cards and decks that run a lot of big cards. If you like a lot of big cards, you should check it out. In particular, again, this list, if you have access to these cards, is stellar. White Widow is not necessary, but Blink is, and Siege is borderline necessary. But if you have access to those other cards, then I would strongly consider opening that. So again, when I wrote this 2 days ago, Black Knight opened some decks, but they aren't meta. I think that first deck might be meta. It needs a larger sample size. It needs more evidence, but it looks really good so far. So Black Knight is borderline for me right now. If you need Black Knight and like Namora, I'd strongly consider opening. Skaar does the same as Black Knight, but is often countered by Mobius, but it is really, really fun. Neither card is a requirement, though they are Series 5, so opening a Series 5 card with Spotlight Caches never feels bad. Namora seems mid. I think than any other week. Let's get some more information on this Black Knight deck. Let me play a little bit more of that Skaar Zemo deck, and let's see what the hell Namora turns out to be, and wait till Friday, and I will give you the best information humanly possible about Namora, the new Spotlight Cache card. All right, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Giesland, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, This Is the Way, Inc., Jay Neverett, J.D. McDonald, Dean Hoke, Heretics Lee, Koirei, Pyrofrost, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Doku, The Great Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, we saw that name earlier, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of The Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, Xsource V and Skippy G, Tommy, Nyquist, Snapdragon Season 1 Champion, The King of Bros, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kev C. Hoda, who's chilling at like 96, you got this, friend, Luna Chris, Louis Antonez, Mod Supreme Models, Reme Setala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrum X, Matt H., DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Greg Sterry, Pretty Damn Chill, whose name, again, we just heard earlier, The Great Seamus, Spike Jones, hey Jonesy, Two Ties, whose deck we just saw that got me to Infinite, The Homie Min, and of course, Gunny T, where the T stands for patience. You need to wait before you open this week. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in being a Patreon, check it out. Either way, you watch this long, hit that sub, get a new video every day. You won't regret it. Peace.